You should just go live in a bubble and leave everyone else alone. These words from my sister, cold, cutting, reaching the depths of my soul, cemented what I had been feeling throughout my journey. How many of you have allergies? How many of you know someone who has allergies? For many people, having allergies means itching, sneezing, maybe rashes. A little inconvenient. For me, it meant life or death. I was a teenager when I had my first anaphylactic reaction. I remember my hands and face swelling, airways constricting, an intense fear and confusion. I didn't know what was happening to me or my body. When I think back to that day, there's a blur of paramedics, an ambulance ride, and a terrifying hospital visit, the first of many such episodes. These visits became so frequent that the paramedics knew me by name. I decided it was time to see an allergy specialist. He helped me identify that my biggest issue was garlic. I don't know if any of you have ever taken the time to look at the label on the back of any food items in the store. Well, I have. I have spent hours upon hours combing through the many products, and I can tell you, garlic is in everything. That, of course, meant a major shift in my diet and lifestyle. I spent so much time researching substitutes and alternatives that by the end of the year, I was more knowledgeable in that area than in my actual degree. I could no longer eat out. If I wanted to eat, I had to do everything. What made my allergy to garlic so uniquely difficult is that it was also airborne, much like a nut allergy. This impacted my relationships and social interactions because I felt that I had to impose my restrictions on those around me. A night out on the town could easily end up in a trip to the hospital, and several times it did. I constantly felt like a burden on others. My inner voice incessantly pointed out the fact that I wasn't worth all the trouble, and that soon enough, everyone else would realize that and stop being my friend. I tried to isolate myself, pushing away the people I loved, not realizing that what was really becoming a burden on others was not my allergy itself, but my attitude towards it. Everyone around me was extremely understanding, caring, and accommodating. I just couldn't see it. Along the way, I did encounter some who didn't understand, many who judged and criticized, and some who even went as far as to take major risks. When I was working at a school in Costa Rica, the chef, knowing about my life-threatening allergy, deliberately cooked with garlic, sending me into anaphylaxis in front of my students. This incident alone made me feel like my life was worthless. It was clear to me in that moment that flavor was more important than my life. When my sister told me I should go live in a bubble, I couldn't help but feel that she was right. Death became a constant adversary, my tug-of-war opponent endeavoring to drag me over to his side. Several times, he almost succeeded. One of those times, he did. I was sitting in my master's class when my professor came over, leaned down to say something to me. There it was, the clear, pungent, and terrifying smell of garlic, engulfing me like a dark cloud. I instantly felt my throat closing, and that horrifying, helpless feeling of imminent doom. My friend grabbed my EpiPen just as my throat was closing, went to inject me, and missed. In the next 3 seconds that followed, my entire life flashed before my eyes. I felt fear like I had never felt before, and breathing became the most difficult, painful, and impossible task. Everyone kept shouting at me, "Just hold on, the paramedics are almost here." I remember thinking, maybe this is for the best. As I thought that and took my last labored breath, I felt myself float up, and I looked down to see my body lying there, lifeless. After my encounter with death, I made many changes. I came back determined to make every moment count, to cherish every breath. There was one thing, however, that I thought would never change, and that was my allergy. I developed such an intense fear of garlic that if anyone so much as mentioned it, I would go into full-on panic mode. I had formed an identity around my allergy, accepting it as simply just the way it was. I saw it as a physiological curse that I would have to live with for the rest of my life. That is until 4 months ago, when my entire life changed. My life changed by a fluke. It was definitely one of those right place at the right time kind of moments. I met 2 master practitioners of NLP and ended up having one of the most powerful experiences of my life. I had assumed all along that my allergy to garlic was physiological. What I found out that night completely opened my eyes to the incredible power of the subconscious mind. It turns out that my allergy was created by my subconscious as a response to one of the most traumatic events of my life. When I was 13 years old, my parents, my sister, and I flew to Costa Rica. This was the time of year that I most looked forward to. A month exploring my home country where I had spent a tiny fraction of my early childhood. Soaking in the sun, eating delicious food, and listening to my grandparents tell stories of the past. In my mind, Costa Rica was a paradise, a source of joy, and a place where I could recharge before starting school again in the fall. I always left reluctantly, but with an immense sense of gratitude and love in my heart. That summer would be different though. I had no way of knowing how much things would change, or how much it would impact the rest of my life and who I would become. It started out like most summers there, catching up with friends, gathering with family. One of these gatherings took place at my uncle's house. 8 or so of us cousins ran, laughed, and played. Morning turned to afternoon, afternoon turned to evening. When our parents said we could sleep over, we rejoiced. That night, we were all gathered in one of my cousin's room playing board games. Little by little, everyone scurried off to bed, exhausted from a long day. Before I knew it, there were 2 of us left. We continued talking and laughing, and then slowly, he got closer. I looked at him confused, thinking maybe he was playing a game. What happened next was earth-shattering. Over the next few minutes, my world came crashing down around me. Everything I thought I knew was no longer true. The whirlwind of emotions and the agonizing pain in my entire body made me truly understand the term heartbreak. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I felt everything and nothing all at once. I believed that family meant safety, support, love, and protection. This person who moments earlier had been one of my favorite cousins, someone who I loved and admired, and whom I thought cared about me and would protect me, suddenly became a source of fear, terror, betrayal. 4 years my senior and freakishly strong, he pushed me, pinned me down, and held my throat. As I began choking, I gasped for air, but the only source available was the pungent, cloud of garlic emanating from his breath. As my body fought desperately to free itself, throwing out feeble kicks, attempting to scream while struggling to breathe, my mind did its best to make sense of the situation. With the little strength I had, I managed to crawl out of my cousin's room into the one I was sharing with my sister. I curled up into a fetal position and lay there, shaking and crying all night. All the while, my inner voice called me a slut and told me I deserved it because I was weak and pathetic. I spent the rest of the summer avoiding that side of the family, claiming I was sick. The truth is, the pain felt insurmountable. I was too ashamed to tell anyone else. For years, I kept this deep, dark secret, locked up in the crevices of my mind, terrified at what unlocking it would bring. It would be over a decade before I could utter the words sexual abuse and rape out loud. My inner voice told me that no one would want to be with me if they knew. During the session, I traveled back to the event, witnessing it from a spectator's point of view and stepping into it as myself. Smelling the garlic in the air from the pizza we had consumed was enough to send me into anaphylaxis. It was like opening the floodgate that had been holding all of these old yet intense emotions. For the first time in my life, however, I did not allow fear to take over. I stayed with the process, trusting the practitioner guiding me and my subconscious mind to release what it needed to release. When we had finished the process, I experienced a level of confidence and peace that I had never known. I felt whole for the first time in decades. I experienced what it felt like to breathe properly. In a euphoric moment, I took my EpiPen and handed it to the practitioner, a token of appreciation and a symbol of my newfound freedom. I have since eaten and cooked with garlic several times. And everything from social interactions to my relationship with myself has improved dramatically. I learned what the subconscious mind can do, and now I seek to master it. Yeah. My name is Melissa Acuña, and this is